Ridgewood, a small town, quiet streets, friendly people. But something was wrong. The town had always been a peaceful place where everyone knew each other and life moved at a gentle pace. But recently, an unsettling feeling had begun to creep into the hearts of the townsfolk. It was as if an invisible shadow had fallen over Ridgewood, casting a pall of unease that no one could quite explain. Every night at the same time, 11:11 p.m. It was an odd coincidence, or so people thought at first. But as the days turned into weeks, the significance of this time became impossible to ignore. The clocks in Ridgewood seemed to hold a secret, a dark omen that only revealed itself at this precise moment. The chimes of the clocks echoed through the empty streets, a haunting reminder of the mystery that gripped the town. A shiver ran down the town's spine. Something was happening. People were vanishing. The disappearances started small. At first it was just a few pets, then a couple of people who were known to wander off. But soon the pattern became clear. The disappearances were not random. They were happening at the same time every night, 11:11 p.m. The town's once lively streets now felt like a ghost town shrouded in mist and fear. A lost dog, a missing cat. These were the first signs. Posters began to appear on streetlights and bulletin boards, each one a silent plea for the return of a beloved pet. The townspeople tried to comfort each other, saying it was just a coincidence that the animals would come back. But deep down, everyone knew something was terribly wrong. The pets were just the beginning. Then Old Man Hemlock vanished from his porch swing. He was a fixture in the community, always seen sitting on his porch waving to passers-by. His disappearance shook the town to its core. If someone as well known and respected as Old Man Hemlock could vanish without a trace, then no one was safe. The fear that had been simmering beneath the surface now boiled over. He was gone, no trace. The porch swing, where he had spent countless hours, was now empty, swaying gently in the night breeze. It was as if the swing itself mourned his absence, a silent witness to the inexplicable event. The townspeople gathered around his house, searching for clues, but there was nothing. No signs of a struggle, no footprints, nothing to indicate where he might have gone, just an empty swing swaying in the night. Fear crept in. The once tight-knit community began to unravel. Neighbors who had known each other for years now looked at each other with suspicion. The sense of security that had defined Ridgewood was shattered. Parents kept their children indoors, and the streets that were once filled with laughter and chatter were now eerily silent. Whispers of a curse spread like wildfire. The townspeople, desperate for answers, began to speculate. Some said it was the work of a vengeful spirit. Others believed it was a curse placed on the town long ago. Theories and rumors spread, each more outlandish than the last, but one thing was certain: the fear was real and it was growing. Ridgewood was no longer the safe haven it once was. The devil's hour had come, and with it a darkness that threatened to consume them all. Jessica Miller was different, young, vibrant. She was last seen at the town square's gazebo, her favorite spot, 11:10 p.m. Her phone showed a final text. "It's snowing again?" Then nothing. The townsfolk searched. They called her name. Silence met their pleas. Jessica was gone. The gazebo stood empty. Snow fell, covering the ground where she last stood. The town held its breath. The curse was real. Detective Harris arrived the next day. The town was shrouded in a thick fog, the kind that seemed to seep into your bones and settle there. The square was eerily quiet, the usual hustle and bustle of small-town life replaced by an unsettling stillness. Harris pulled his coat tighter around him, feeling the weight of the case already pressing down on his shoulders. A weary man. Haunted eyes. Harris had been on the force for over 2 decades, and each case left its mark. The lines on his face told stories of sleepless nights and endless questions. His eyes, once bright with the promise of justice, now held a shadow of doubt. He lit a cigarette, the familiar ritual offering a momentary comfort in the face of the unknown. He had seen this before, the same patterns, the same eerie similarities, each photo, each file, a piece of a puzzle that never seemed to fit together. He'd spent countless hours poring over these details, trying to find the one clue that would make everything click, but it always eluded him, like a ghost just out of reach. Another town, another time, the same vanishing act. He knew the drill: the skeptical police chief, the terrified townsfolk, the impossible disappearances. Each town had its own flavor of fear, but the core was always the same. People vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and heartache. Harris had become all too familiar with the routine, but it never got any easier. Harris visited Jessica's empty apartment. The air was thick with the scent of abandonment, a stark contrast to the life that had once filled the space. He could almost hear the echoes of laughter, the whispers of conversations that had taken place within these walls. But now it was silent, a void that seemed to swallow any hope of finding answers. A half-finished cup of tea sat on the table. The tea had long gone cold, a testament to the abruptness of Jessica's disappearance. It was a small detail, but it spoke volumes. Someone had been here, living their life, and then, in an instant, they were gone. Harris felt a pang of sadness, a reminder of the fragility of existence. A book lay open on the couch. Life interrupted. He felt a chill. Something wasn't right. The book was a mystery novel, its pages frozen mid-sentence. It was as if Jessica had been pulled from her world into another, leaving behind only these fragments of her life. Harris couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something, a crucial piece of the puzzle that would unlock the truth. This was more than just a missing person case. It was a riddle wrapped in an enigma, a challenge that would test every ounce of Harris's resolve. He knew he had to dig deeper, to look beyond the obvious and find the hidden threads that connected these disappearances. The weight of the task was heavy, but Harris was determined. He had to find Jessica, and in doing so, perhaps he would find a piece of himself that had been lost along the way. Section 4, Stakeout. Harris set up watch at the town square. He focused on the gazebo, the epicenter of the disappearances. He checked his watch, 10:58 p.m. The air grew heavy. A stillness settled over the town. 11:09 p.m. The streetlights flickered.
Breathing heavily. 11:10 p.m. Shadows danced at the edge of the light. I held my breath. My heart pounded. I felt a presence. Something was coming.
Section 5, The Shadow Man. 11:11 p.m. A figure materialized, tall and gaunt, hidden in the shadows. It moved towards the gazebo, silent and swift like smoke in the wind.
I jumped out of my car, gun drawn. "Stop! Police!" I shouted.
The figure paused. It turned its head. Harris felt a cold dread grip his heart. The figure raised its hand. It pointed to the sky. Section 6, An empty car. Harris looked up. Nothing. He turned back. The figure was gone, vanished. He ran to the gazebo, empty. He shined his flashlight around the square. His heart sank.
A car stood abandoned in the middle of the road. Keys in the ignition, engine running.
He checked the registration. It belonged to the police chief. His blood ran cold. This curse had struck again, right under his nose. Section 7. The Curse of 11:11. Harris stood alone, snow falling around him. The cold air bit at his face, and the silence of the night was almost deafening. He could feel the weight of the town's history pressing down on him, a history filled with unexplained events and eerie coincidences. The abandoned car seemed to mock him. It was a relic of the past, a reminder of the many who had vanished without a trace, the disappearances, the shadowy figure that seemed to lurk in every corner, the eerie timing of it all. It was all connected. Harris felt a chill run down his spine as he thought about the stories he had heard, the whispers of a curse that plagued the town. The eerie timing, it was all connected. He had no answers. Only more questions. Why did these events always happen at 11:11? What was the significance of that time? Harris had spent countless nights pondering these questions, but the answers always seemed just out of reach. The shadowy figure, always seen but never caught, added to the mystery. Who was it? What did it want?
One thing was clear. The town of Ridgewood held a dark secret. A secret that had been buried for years, hidden beneath layers of snow and silence. The townspeople spoke of it in hushed tones, afraid to draw the attention of whatever malevolent force was at work. Ridgewood held a dark secret, a curse tied to 11:11. It was a time that seemed to hold power over the town, a time when strange things happened and people disappeared. The clock striking 11:11 was a harbinger of doom, a signal that something terrible was about to occur, a curse tied to 11:11, and it wasn't finished yet. Harris knew that he had to find a way to break the curse, to put an end to the cycle of fear and loss that had gripped the town for so long. But how? The answers were elusive, hidden in the shadows of Ridgewood's past. And it wasn't finished yet. The curse was still at work, still claiming victims. Harris felt a sense of urgency, a need to act before it was too late. He couldn't let the curse take another life, couldn't let it continue to haunt the town.
He looked at his watch, 11:10 p.m. The seconds ticked by, each one bringing him closer to the dreaded time. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, the fear rising within him. He had to move, had to get out of the town square before it was too late. He had 1 minute to get out of the town square, 1 minute to escape the fate that awaited him. The snow crunched under his feet as he started to run, his breath visible in the cold night air. He could feel the eyes of the shadowy figure on him, watching, waiting. 1 minute to escape the fate that awaited him. He glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see the figure closing in on him. But the square was empty, silent except for the sound of his own footsteps. He pushed himself to run faster, knowing that every second counted. The clock was ticking and he had to outrun the curse of 11.